You've probably seen the headlines blowing up your feed. War has started between the US and Iran. Iran's supreme leader has been killed. And in retaliation, Iran is attacking the entire Middle East. Dubai, Bahrain, Qatar. The internet is full of hot takes. But here's the thing. If you think this is just about two countries duking it out, or that it won't affect you, well, you're only scratching the surface. Okay, let's really get into what's going on here.
So the big question on everyone's mind is, with its supreme leader gone, is this it? Is Iran about to just collapse? A lot of armchair generals online are pretty quick to say, yep, Iran is finished. But the reality on the ground? It's way, way more complicated than that.
So first off, let's just bust this myth that Iran is going to fall apart. It is a huge, huge mistake to underestimate their internal structure. The reality is, Iran has this incredibly deep succession plan that was designed for exactly this kind of crisis. Let's break down why they are just so resilient.
Okay, so for our first section, let's look at Iran's internal strength. Why is it so hard to break? Well, it all comes down to planning and power structures they've been building for decades. And what's really fascinating is how their system works. Iran runs on something called a 4 levels of succession policy. Get this, it means for every single important leader, every key position, they have 4 alternatives ready to step in at a moment's notice. And on top of that, there's a whole separate contingency plan for emergencies, just like this one. A new leader has almost certainly already been chosen, but they're not going to be foolish enough to announce it and just create a brand new target. And this resilience, it goes way beyond just the politicians. You've also got the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Now, this isn't just an army. It's a deeply ideological, incredibly powerful force that is sworn to protect this system at all costs. And they have publicly vowed to launch what they're calling the most ferocious operation in Iran's entire history in retaliation. Their power, their resolve, you just cannot ignore it.
Okay, so Iran is tough on the inside, but its real power to cause chaos for the rest of us, that lies externally. So let's move on to our second section and see how this whole conflict puts a chokehold on the entire global economy.
This one number really says it all. 20%. Iran basically has control over the Strait of Hormuz, this tiny 33-kilometer-wide strip of water. And through that one narrow strait flows a full fifth of the entire world's oil supply. Think about that. And to put that in perspective, we're talking about 17 million barrels of oil passing through that choke point every single day. The potential for disruption here is absolutely massive, and believe me, it would be felt by everyone, everywhere. And the impact on your wallet? It would be immediate. If that supply is even threatened, experts are predicting oil prices could just skyrocket from around $72 a barrel to well over $100. And that means higher prices for gas, for shipping, for pretty much everything you buy. Now, for the neighboring Gulf nations, the situation is even more terrifying. For countries like Qatar, Bahrain, and the UAE, a staggering 90% of their entire export trade is at risk. Blocking that strait doesn't just hurt them, it economically cripples them.
But this threat isn't just about oil. Iran's strategy has created a much, much bigger crisis, effectively holding the entire region's economic hubs hostage.
Right. Another myth you see online is that Iran messed up by attacking its neighbors. Wrong. This was not some blunder. It was a completely calculated move. It was a trap, designed to show the world that Iran doesn't need to fight America head-on to cause global pain. All it has to do is shut down the world's connection points.
I mean, just think about it. The moment Dubai International, one of the world's busiest airports, is forced to shut down its airspace, the ripple effect is instantaneous. Global travel and business are paralyzed. Tourists and workers from literally every country are suddenly stranded. It's a global hostage situation, created without firing a single shot at the West. And of course, it puts a major roadblock in front of huge ambitions, like Saudi Prince MBS's vision to transform the entire region.
But this isn't just about economics in airports. This global problem has a very real, very personal human cost. For the millions of people who are working abroad in these hubs, this geopolitical chess game has become a direct threat to their safety.
Just wrap your head around this number. There are 8 million Indians living and working in the Gulf region alone. If this war escalates, evacuating 8 million people is not a joke. It is a logistical nightmare of truly epic proportions.
And you can literally hear the fear in the voices of those who are trapped. This is a direct quote from an Indian student in Iran pleading for help as things got worse. It just puts a human face on the real-world consequences of all this. But the story here is actually more complex. You see, the Indian embassy issued its first warning to leave way back on January 14th. A second, even more urgent warning came on February 23rd. The desperate video pleas for evacuation, they only started after the strikes actually happened. And this raises some really difficult questions about when personal responsibility ends and a government's duty to rescue begins.
All of this really just points to a fundamental shift in how conflicts are fought. So let's look at the future and the new age of warfare that this crisis has really laid bare for all of us to see.
See, the wars of tomorrow aren't going to be fought mainly with tanks and soldiers on some clear battlefield. The new weapons are drones, cyber attacks, and disinformation. The battlefield is borderless, the attacks are asymmetric, and the whole thing is designed to give the attacker plausible deniability. Think of it this way. Even if you intercept 99% of a drone swarm, the 1% that gets through can still cause catastrophic damage.
And this new reality, it exposes a critical vulnerability for so many nations. For example, India is the world's largest importer of arms. Now, in the old world, that might have been seen as a sign of strength. But in this new age of warfare, it becomes a critical vulnerability. It reveals a dangerous dependency on other countries for your own national security.
So the crucial point here is that real security today comes from self-reliance. It's just like how India's decision to develop its own nuclear capabilities back in the 70s and 80s guaranteed its security for decades. The nations that are going to be secure tomorrow are the ones developing their own homegrown drone and cyber defense systems today.
Which brings us to our final section, the strategic lessons we can pull from all this. This is a massive wake-up call that policymakers all around the world really need to hear. If we boil it all down, there are 4 key lessons. First, in our totally interconnected world, no conflict is truly far away. Second, these economic choke points, like the Strait of Hormuz, are massive global vulnerabilities. Third, future national security depends completely on technological self-reliance. And finally, a timeless rule of geopolitics: there are no permanent friends, only permanent national interests.
It is crystal clear that this conflict, no matter how it ends, has given us a very real glimpse into the future of global power and security. And it leaves us with one final urgent question. The scientists and leaders of the past, they built the shields that protect us from the threats of their time. But who is building the shields for the wars of tomorrow?